Ark awakens before a tree and is left troubled by his situation. After calming himself down, he assesses himself and his equipment and realizes that he's inside the body of his game character Ark. Recalling that he fell asleep after playing the game, Ark tries out his Wyvern Slash move and is amazed by its power. Trying out magic next, Ark casts a simple fire spell that incinerates a tree. Ark then concludes that he can utilize all the previous skills from the upgrade path of his main skill, Holy Knight, which leads him to believe he's exceptionally strong. Growing hungry and unfortunately without food or funding, Ark casts a gate spell to teleport somewhere else, but is instead teleported off a nearby cliff. He lands safely by a river stream, and when he takes off his helmet to drink from it, he realizes his head is that of a skeleton. Remembering that he chose the skeleton avatar back in his old world, Ark realizes that if he enters a town without wearing his helmet, he'll be treated as a monster. The name of the town is Luvert, and after exploring the place a bit, Ark encounters a woman arguing with an investigator over his failure to obtain the information she hired him for. It turns out the woman is an elf, which amazes Ark, but he soon loses sight of her. Later he finds the town's mercenary guild and upon entering it, tries to acquire a license. Initially, the male receptionist claims that it'd be pointless for him to get one as he appears to be well employed already due to the armor he's wearing. So Ark gives an excuse, and the receptionist believes him but informs him that before he can get one, he'll have to pass a trial. The trial requires Ark to bring back proof of subjugation of one of three things: a beast, monster, or bandit. Wasting no time, Ark leaves the guild. Afterward, Ark slays a couple of boars and then an orc carrying the proof of subjugation. He spots a group of bandits surrounding a carriage and slaying the guards surrounding a noble lady and her maid. The bandits take advantage of the noble lady and her maid. We see Ark slaying the bandits and finishing off the remaining ones with his Wyvern Slash move. Once the bandits are dealt with, Ark checks upon the two ladies. They thank him and introduce themselves as Lauren and her maid Rita. As Rita and Lauren step into the forest to take care of themselves, Ark loots the bandits' belongings and uses their horses to carry it all. Rita then asks for Ark's name, and he introduces himself as a humble traveler by the name of Ark. Back at the guild, Ark turns in his subjugated prey and receives a rune stone from the orc he slew. The receptionist advises him to remove them whenever he kills a monster and explains what runes can be processed into. Ark is then given his license, and he immediately checks into an inn and has the food served there delivered to his room. Meanwhile, a single mother named Siona works hard for her two children, Marka and Helena. Every morning as the sun rises, she makes her way to the field. To assist their mother, Marka writes a job request seeking help. Eventually, Ark accepts the task, which involves safeguarding someone while they collect herbs. He arrives at the designated location called Rada Village, and the gatekeeper of the village directs him to Siona's home. While collecting herbs in the fields, Ark is alerted by some shaking in the bushes. Upon investigating, he discovers a wounded green, multi-tailed monster. Ark uses healing magic on it, allowing the creature, whom he names Panta, to heal from its wounds. Back in the village, a hunter is disturbed by something unusual he saw in the forest, different from the usual fanged boars commonly encountered there. Coincidentally, Siona returns to the village and learns from the gatekeeper that Marka had left for the forest earlier that morning with a knight. Returning to Ark's group, they find the Kabying tree in full bloom. But as Marka approaches it, a giant basilisk appears from behind the tree. Observing Panta's agitated behavior towards the creature, Ark deduces that the monster was the one responsible for injuring Panta. Acting quickly, Ark pulls Marka out of harm's way as the basilisk attempts to stomp on her, and he skillfully avoids its poison fog breath attacks. Analyzing the basilisk's moves, Ark defends against its paralyzing claws and whip-like tongue. He then uses his holy shield to protect against a petrification attack. Following this, Ark employs his judgment attack, which slices the monster in half, ultimately defeating it. Ark requests that this incident be kept a secret, and Marka agrees. Ark then notices a ring around the monster's right ankle, which disappears moments after spotting it. Marka reunites with her mother, Siona, who embraces her daughter, and Ark formally apologizes to Siona for recklessly allowing Marka to venture into the forest. By dusk, Ark and Panta prepare to leave, and Helena gifts Ark a circlet of flowers. Later that night, within the forest, a large group of soldiers successfully slay a giant basilisk of their own. The leader receives a status report from his subordinate. detailing the total number of deceased and injured soldiers, as well as the astonishing feat of a single person slaying a giant basilisk single-handedly. Amazed by this accomplishment, the leader speculates that the individual who achieved this must either be a god or a devil. Meanwhile, Ark enjoys his time in his room with Panta and contemplates taking on a more challenging quest the next day. On the other hand, Arian's inner monologue reflects on how the elf-human treaty is currently nothing more than a farce, and she seeks more power. Her destiny takes a turn when she spots Ark with Panta exiting a cave and prepares to attack him elsewhere in Dinto. Triton hears from his partner Celsica about the failed assassination attempt on Lauren's life. The beasts that were set loose in Louvred turn out to be the giant basilisks, both of which were individually slain. This news disheartens Triton, and Celsica wonders why Prince Dakirs was targeting the area in the first place. Triton, however, has no clue. They acknowledge the importance of not letting any information leak about their allegiance with Dakirs, as it could complicate matters with Prince Stekt. Therefore, Triton orders that the product must be secured and sent to the market without Princess Uraerna becoming aware of it. Celsica assures him that it will be done. Triton then asks about his son, Udalin, and Celsica informs him that he was escorting the product, to which Triton disapproves. Returning to Ark, he is attacked by Arian, and he recognizes her as the elf from the city. Arian accuses Ark of being a bandit but stops attacking him when she sees Panta and recognizes her as a spirit creature. This clears Ark of suspicion as a bandit, and Arian reveals that she heard that bandits in the area were hunting elves. Ark informs Arian that no elves were found, and he learns from her that elves are being sold for a high price on the slave market. Before Arian runs off, Ark tries to offer his help, but Arian flatly rejects the offer and leaves. After warping to a location close to the elven forest, Panta senses the presence of a young elven girl trying to escape from her captors but is soon caught. Udalin, the leader of the bandit captors, taunts the girl for attempting to escape and stabs her in the leg. Ark watches the scene unfold, and before he can intervene, Arian appears and swiftly takes out a couple of bandits. One of the bandits recognizes Arian as a dark elf, a rare type of elf, who would fetch a great price. Udalin shows no concern for her and allows the bandits to do as they please with her. A large number of bandits then surround Arian, but she defeats them effortlessly, and one of the remaining bandits recognizes her as an elven warrior. When Arian is in a tough spot, Udalin takes one of the elven girls hostage. Seeing an opportunity to help, Ark appears behind Udalin and uses his armor lariat attack, knocking him out. Arian takes care of the remaining bandits, rescuing the elven captives who were wearing mana-eating collars. She explains that these collars suppress their ability to use spirit magic. Ark uses Uncurse on one of the elven girls and heals her wounds. Arian summons her spirit creature, Whispering Fowl, to relay a message about the rescued elves. Shortly after, a couple of cloaked elves arrive and take the formerly captive elven girls away. With the elven girls safe, Arian marvels at the skills and abilities Ark displayed and demands to know his true identity. Ark reassures her that he is just an ordinary person. Whispering Fowl returns with another message, revealing that the main perpetrator's headquarters are located in Dinto, and they plan to make a move there soon. In response, Arian asks to hire Ark for his services, and he accepts. Using a magic spell gate, Ark teleports the group to Little River, surprising Arian as she spots Dinto in the distance. Upon reaching the city, they wait for Danka, who discloses the location of their target area within the theater district. That night, they head to their destination, unaware that they are being followed by an unknown person. Ark uses Dimension Move to teleport the group to the rooftop of their destination. After some difficulty, Arian manages to enter the building, and Ark uses Dimension Move again to teleport Danka, Panta, and himself inside as well. While exploring the building, they find that some of the bandits have been killed. They decide to split up to investigate the area more thoroughly. Ark uses Dimension Move to move quietly around the building. Upon discovering more dead bandits in a room, he is attacked by a ninja. The ninja is initially excited about encountering Ark but calms down after seeing Panta. She deduces that Ark is there for the enslaved elves and hands him a roll of paper, claiming it will be useful to him, the location of the elves. The papers provided by the ninja turn out to be contracts for elven slaves, which Ark shows to both Arian and Danka. He also mentions that there are 2 more elves in the Lord's palace. When questioned about where he found the papers, Ark states that he discovered them on one of the bandits present. In the basement area, Ark sets the elven girls free. He then uses Dimension Move to reach the Lord's palace. Inside the palace, Triton has 2 elven ladies named Sina and Yuna restrained on his bed, preparing to do as he pleases with them. However, he first chastises his son, Eudalan, for his recent failure. Meanwhile, Ark and Arian successfully arrive at Triton's mansion, catching the attention of a couple of guards. At that moment, Celsica informs Triton about the intruders in the mansion, and he claims that the invaders are monsters, but the door behind him explodes. Arian incapacitates Triton, while Ark startles Eudalan and discovers a hidden room. Afterward, the two elves leave, and Arian checks on Ark, who loots the gold from the hidden room. Several bombs detonate throughout the mansion, prompting Ark and Arian to teleport to a safe location. Arian offers Ark to accompany her to the Elven lands, where more elves are held captive. Ark explains that he can never take off his armor, and when Arian asks why, he takes off his helmet, revealing his true appearance, and briefly explains his cursed past, which transformed his appearance. Realizing that he's not undead and trusting him for the help he's provided so far, Arian believes he will be welcomed in the land of elves. She suggests that the Elder may be able to help him return to his original form. They formally introduce themselves and shake hands, solidifying their newly formed relationship. In Olav, the capital of the Rotten Kingdom, King Carlin holds a meeting with his children, Prince Sect, Prince Doc Hares, and Princess Uriana, discussing the recent events involving Triton. Sect mentions that Triton was illegally selling elves to the eastern country, a claim that Doc Hares disputes. However, Sect believes that Doc Hares is defending Triton. This upsets Doc Hares, who speaks defensively but is stopped by King Carlin. The king speaks in favor of Doc Hares, stating that a thorough investigation is necessary before reaching any conclusions. King Carlin then seeks Uriana's opinion on the matter, and she mentions hearing rumors about the elven slaves causing the imposed treaty to be broken. This would lead to raised tensions with their kingdom and other nations, so they must uncover the truth immediately. She also mentions the potential backlash from the elves themselves, and Sect points out that other nations might hold them responsible. As a result, King Carlin assigns Uriana to visit Limbal and address any arising tensions there. Sometime later in Olav, Uriana is served tea by her maid, Ferna. While about to drink it, she expresses her suspicions that her brother Doc Hares is involved in the elf trade incident, and that Sect will confront him about it. Meanwhile, Ark and Arian reach their destination, La Latoya. The gate to the village opens, and Ark follows Arian to the Elder's house. At the Elder's home, Ark and Arian meet the Elder and his wife, Dylan and Glenys, who happen to be Arian's parents. Dylan formally expresses gratitude to Ark for his contributions to the Elven village, but also reprimands Arian for attacking Triton's manor. Understanding the situation, Dylan decides to inform the other Elders in Maple about the uncovered trafficking contract. The following morning, Ark wakes up and learns that Arian and Dylan have already left, as Glenys informs him. Arian and Dylan listen to the Elders debate on how to proceed with humans violating the 400-year treaty by enslaving elves. The outcome is settled by the Elder, who suggests observing the Rodent Kingdom's reaction to the attack on the Lord's manor. Back with Ark, he spars against Glenys, who easily overwhelms him with her swordplay during their training session. Dylan updates Ark on the Elder's decision and hires him to hunt down the individuals named in the contract while also freeing any elves he comes across. Dylan admits that the payment he can offer for the job might be inadequate, so he bargains with Ark and offers him information on how to break his curse as an additional reward. Dylan reveals the existence of a magical spring near Lord Crown that can remove curses, but it's also a place where the Dragon Lord resides, and spirit animals inhabit the area. Due to the risks for a human, an elf must act as a mediator to gain access. Ark accepts this reward but internally notes how his curse was part of his role-playing and not an actual curse. However, if it were indeed a curse, he could dispel it with one of his spells. He tests this theory by casting Uncurse on himself, and to his amazement, it works without causing any harm. Ark and Groove set out for Olav, the capital of the Rodent Kingdom, and he reflects on how his skeleton body is indeed due to a curse. Although he can temporarily cure it with an uncursed spell, the effects are sadly not permanent. The next day, Uriana, accompanied by her maids, settles into their horse-driven carriage. They plan to regroup with their guards midway in the nearby forest to maintain a fast pace and reach the Grand Duchy of Lindbolt with all possible haste. Unbeknownst to them, an elusive figure closely watches them from the shadows. Back with Ark's group, they approach the location where the haunted wolves were sent to be. They get attacked by the haunted wolves, most of which are illusions created by the wolves. They both handle themselves well against the haunted wolves, and soon Ark finds the leader of the pack. Facing the pack leader, Ark notices that it has a similar ring attached to its leg, similar to the one he once found on a giant basilisk. Ark manages to cut the ring off the pack leader, allowing it to regain control of itself and call its pack members to regroup and leave. Arian joins Ark, and he informs her about the rings he found on the haunted wolf and the giant basilisk that attacked them in the past. Meanwhile, Euryana's carriage progresses through the forest. She is fully aware that her brother, Dakars, is the ringleader responsible for the elven slaves, and that her other brother's sect would allow things to play out without getting involved. Suddenly, the carriage starts to shake, and a couple of the guards outside shout that they are under attack. Back with Ark's group, Arian prepares to skin the tail fur from the wolves, and Ponta hears a disturbance in the distance and heads towards it. Ark follows Ponta, while Arian stays behind to prepare the wolf's tail fur. At Euryana's carriage, both Euryana and Ferna are slain by one of 6 hooded assailants, and one of Euryana's guards was an accomplice. Just then, Ponta, followed by Ark, arrives at the scene. As Ark examines Euryana and Ferna, the assailants launch multiple fired Beretta and rock shot at Ark, who is invulnerable to the attacks. He assesses whether or not he should cast a spell to revive both Ferna and Euryana. To his shock, the haunted wolves from before attack the assailants. Ark joins the attack, and they manage to take out a few of the assailants, while the rest escape from the scene. Once everything is settled, the wolves leave, and Ark decides to cast regeneration on Euryana, Ferna, and as many of her guards as he can. While Ark does this, Euryana briefly regains consciousness. Ark regroups with Arian, who had finished her task, and they continue forward. Finally, at Olaf, they nearly get involved in a fight between a young lady and 3 angry men. However, the young lady easily deals with the men. It turns out the young lady is the ninja girl they encountered before. Chiom expresses gratitude to Arian and Ark for freeing the enslaved people back in Dinto, and introduces herself as a member of the Jinshin clan's 6 ninjas. They then move to a room at an inn, where Ark introduces himself and Ponta, while Arian does the same. In the royal castle, Prince Dakars becomes angry as the haunted wolves stop obeying orders. Another man named Centurion speculates that the rings on the wolves may have been broken somehow, and it's possible that Euryana is still alive. This could pose a severe problem for Dakars' plans to disrupt the negotiations between the elves and her. Dakars inquires about the identity of the perpetrators, and Centurion suggests that they were likely elves and might have made their way to Olaf. Meanwhile, Ark and the group walk through a forested area, and Chiom informs Ark that the founder of her village was not a beastman but a human named Hanzo. She reveals that Hanzo was once a spy for the Revlon Empire, who took it upon himself to care for an underprivileged beastman and even train some of them. They reach their destination, the largest slave market in Olav, Etsat Market. By dusk, Chiom goes over the plan and asks that both Arian and Ark act conspicuously, and then make a quick escape when they are done. She admits that she doesn't believe that everyone involved in this mission will be able to escape. Ark then asks if Etsat is a decoy, and Chiom confirms it, mentioning that the other 4 slave markets in Olav will be targeted as well. Chiom goes off to notify her comrades, and she tells Ark and Arian that the assault on the market will take place that night and advises them to prepare themselves. Ark dons a new mask, and soon they are met by Chiom and her companion Goman. It is decided that Arian and Chiom will attack the front, while Ark and Goman will attack the rear. Without wasting any time, Ark and Goman approach the back gate, and Goman casts Stone Smasher on himself to help Ark break through the front door. Inside the place, Ark takes out several guards, and Goman activates Arm Bracer, transforming his body into hardened steel that breaks the weapons of those who attack him. Taking advantage of the situation, Goman casts Rock Spear Strike, and Ark adds to it with his Rock Fang. On the opposite side of the fort, Chiom and Arian manage to get past the front gate and head toward the market. During the attack on the Etsat market that night, Dakar's Insectrian safe haven is informed by the aforementioned person that the market is under attack, along with 4 other slave markets. Dakar's demands that reinforcements be sent to the places under attack and expresses his frustration about the situation. At the Etsat market, Chiom, Arian, and Panta stealthily enter the place, and soon a couple of guards confront them. Chiom quickly dispatches the guards using her ninjutsu liquid wolf fang technique. They reach the cells where the slaves are held, and Chiom announces herself as a member of the Jinshin clan there to rescue them all. As she opens some cells, more guards arrive, but Arian swiftly deals with them. Outside in the market compound, Ark and Goman emerge from the rubble and are joined by Chiom's group, who informs them of the Beast People's location. Gomen decides to stay behind and defend the area in case reinforcements arrive, while Ark and the others return to the market to free more of the enslaved captives. They manage to rescue more slaves, but they discover a pile of dead bodies, and a slave informs them that sick or injured slaves were disposed of. Ark consoles Chiom, and they all regroup with the slave in the hall, and then Ark teleports them out using his magic in large groups. Ark then goes back to the market compound to assist the injured and weary Gomen. With Ark using his Rock Fang and Gomen using his Rock Spear Strike, they defeat the reinforcements easily. Afterward, they meet up with Arian and Chiom and bring along the bodies of the deceased slaves. Once the bodies are respectfully laid out on the ground, Arian cremates them. Meanwhile, Dakadars is assassinated by Cetrian, who is in cahoots with Prince Sect. Sect learns from Cetrian about the freed slaves and Uriarna's supposed death. He is pleased by the news and asks Cetrian to spread the news of Uriarna's demise, relishing the fact that he is now the sole heir to the throne. Time passes, and Ark's group returns to Olaf. They travel on a boat steered by Gomen and learn from Chiom that she and Gomen will head to a hidden village in the Kalkat Mountains. She promises to share the important information she had previously mentioned. In the Grand Duchy of Lindbold, Uriarna reaches her sister Sariana's castle and learns about her supposed death. After considering the situation, Uriarna decides not to inform her father about her survival and instead plans to fulfill her duty by speaking to the elves. Back with Ark's group, Arian sends a message through a whisperbird to Dank, updating him with the current events. A flashback reveals that Chiom had provided information about the location of the remaining elven slaves at the Holy Rivlon Empire. Meanwhile, in the imperial capital of the Holy Rivlon Empire, Emperor Domitianus learns about Dokhair's death from his chancellor Velmos. Though pleased by the news of Uriarna's supposed demise, Velmos informs Domitianus that the rings they had provided to Dokhairs were broken, and that a third person was involved in killing the princess. Domitianus speculates that Sect was probably the one to do it and inquires about Foma's progress in bringing Olaf to ruin. Velmos happily reports that his progress is going smoothly. In a desolate wasteland, a flock of sandwyverns soars in the sky, and Ark becomes extremely excited by their presence. Meanwhile, someone is observing and taking notes on Ark. Arian reveals the plan on how they will reach the Rivlon Empire. She explains that unlike in the Rotten Kingdom, elven slavery is allowed in the Rivlon Empire, and her being an elf is a notable concern. Suddenly, they are approached by the person who was spying on them earlier. He introduces himself as KRC Held, an elven monster researcher. KRC then asks for their assistance in his research on monsters, but Arian firmly refuses. However, KRC offers them a map of the Rivlon Empire as a reward for their help. He instructs them to meet him at the town entrance the next day. Ark then asks for information about the sandwyvern they are hunting, and KRC provides more details. Arian notices that the cart behind them is missing, and just then, the sandworm they were after appears, much larger than expected. Arian tries to rescue KRC's companion, but the sandworm ambushes her. She attempts to use a fire spell to exploit the creature's weakness, but her attack proves ineffective, and the sandworm goes after her. Ark intervenes just in time to save Arian, allowing her and KRC's companion to retreat to safety. Seizing the opportunity, Ark pulls the sandworm out of the ground and with his immense strength, slams it down, knocking it out. The attached ring on the sandworm disappears. Later that day, the sandworm is tied up and brought back to town. KRC rewards the two with their promised map. Meanwhile, an unnamed man from Rivlon reports to Fumba, who is accompanied by a couple of women, about the recent increase in missing people. Fumba shows the man the monster he plans to use in the next attack and feeds one of his women to it. Upon arriving at the border town of Kayesek, Ark realizes they have finally reached the Rivlon Empire, the place where the captured elves are imprisoned. Due to the tight security in the area, they decide to discreetly inquire around town without drawing attention to themselves. By dusk, Ark reviews what he has learned. Noises emanate from the castle, and people from the town have mysteriously disappeared over time. However, there is still no information about elves being held captive there. Before Ark and Panta catch up with Arian, they hear a woman screaming and find a lady in an alleyway facing off against a trio of men. Ark arrives at the scene and takes care of the brutes. Later that night, in his fortress, Fumba is informed by the three men who attempted to capture the lady in the alleyway about their failure, so he feeds them to his white tiger monster. Outside the fortress, Ark and the group advance toward it. Once inside, Arian discovers a concealed stairway, and as they descend, they notice the pungent smell of beasts. At the bottom of the stairs, they quickly handle the two guards guarding the solid iron gate. Panta then identifies another iron gate that Ark opens, revealing a massive underground space with pillars scattered around the area. Fumba arrives and mentions he came to investigate what was alerting his monsters. He introduces himself as a monster sorcerer and boasts about his skills in his profession, which concerns Ark. Ark notices the rings attached to Fumba's belt that match the ones he encountered in his travels before. When Ark expresses doubt, Fumba summons his white tiger monster to deal with him. Ark places Arian at a safe distance and inquires about the elves who arrived there 4 months ago. Fumba reveals that most of them were sent to the Empire for magical experiments, while the rest were used for his amusement. Hearing this, Ark swiftly slices off the monster's head and admits to encountering a fair amount of villainy since arriving in that land. Unfazed, Fumba summons a horde of monsters, but Ark skillfully deals with them all using his sword and abilities like Shield Bash. Still undeterred, Fumba points out that Arian is in trouble, and Ark notices an orc about to crush her with its club. However, Kioma traps the orc in a body of water called Liquid Prison. Despite Fumba's attempt to summon more monsters, Kioma informs him that her comrades have eliminated them all. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake, and Fumba claims his masterpiece, Humbrian, has arrived. He declares that he will settle the score outside and flees the scene. Teleporting outside with Arian in his arms and both Panta and Kioma on his shoulders, Ark recognizes the monster that emerged from the fortress as a Hydra. He observes the rings on the Hydra, and Kioma suggests a tactical retreat. However, before they can escape, the Hydra attacks them head-on. Fumba watches through the Hydra and revels in his victory over Ark's group. He commands the Hydra to go to Kasek and feed on its inhabitants. Meanwhile, Ark and Kioma are revealed to be alive, protected by Ark's shield magic. Despite Arian's desire to pursue Fumba, Ark suggests that he should hunt down the Hydra heading for Kasek. Thinking Ark can handle it alone, Kioma and Arian decide to go after Fumba themselves. In the Holy East Revlon Empire, Domros updates Emperor Domitianus regarding the Destroyer of Nations and the Rings of Submission created from the analysis of Fumba's sorcery, which are almost complete. As the Hydra approaches Kasek, the city guards raise an alarm, and the head guard orders preparations for an evacuation. Catching up to the Hydra, Ark uses his Wyvern Slash to get its attention and follows up with a Shield Bash. An astonished Fumba witnesses this as it unfolds, and then Ark evades its Flame Breath using a Dimension move. But one of the heads bites him. Despite the other heads preparing to fire fireballs at trapped Ark, he defends himself with his magic, resulting in the destruction of the head that trapped him. Using his judgment skill, Ark destroys 3 of the Hydra heads, only for them to regenerate. While retreating to a safe distance, Ark prepares to use a magic spell he's never used before and summons Ifrit to confront the Hydra. Meanwhile, Panta leads Arian and Kioma to Fumba's location, and he seems amused by Arian's presence, assuming she's there to join him. Fumba attempts to possess Arian with his monsters, but she quickly kills them before he can. Kioma reveals a scar on his back, indicating he had a special spell crest seal used to control his monsters. Fumba warns them that the Hydra is now beyond his control, and will kill everyone in the city. Arian reassures Kioma that everything will be fine because Ark is down there fighting the Hydra. She then proceeds to incinerate Fumba with her flame sword. Back to Ark's side, with the combined efforts of Ark and his summon, Ifrit, they defeat the Hydra. Once Ark regroups with Arian, Kioma, and Panta, a whisper bird arrives, sent by Danka, conveying that Princess Yuriana has met with one of the great elven elders, Fangas, to settle matters between their kingdoms. Prince Sect and Dakaras are mentioned as conspirators with the Revlon Empire. Princess Yuriana promises that if the Revlon Empire invades the Elven lands, the Olev Kingdom will help defend them. Fangas agrees to the terms and shakes Yuriana's hand on it. Returning to Ark's group, they continue down a dirt path and discuss the coexistence between humans and elves. In the kingdom of Olav, Sectrian reports to Prince Sect that Princess Yuriana survived and her negotiations with the elves were successful. Considering the possibility of a double agent, Prince Sect dismisses it and decides to take an alternate path to achieve their goal. In her room, Yuriana believes that she died once before but was brought back to life to fulfill her angel's wishes. News of the deaths of the Hydra and Fumba reach Domitianus, who considers it of no loss whatsoever and is curious to know who slew the Hydra. Meanwhile, Ark inadvertently reveals his face to Kioma and is then informed about his condition. She excitedly shares that after reaching Lalatoya, Arian will guide Ark to Lord Crown. Enthusiastic about the trip, Ark also expresses his desire to see Kioma's hometown, to which she shyly agrees. Thanks for watching and make sure to like, subscribe and comment, as it helps us out a lot.